So I've just taken delivery of the crawl-through doors. As I've mentioned in previous vlogs, I'm looking towards like putting a crawl-through in between the living quarters and the cab of the truck. So for the living quarters, I've gone for basically a UPVC style window, and then for the cab, this is from Vehicle Windows, who make security doors for vehicles. So like I said, I've just literally taken delivery of these this morning, so all I need now is a fabricators. Well, that were easy. Right guys, don't know what you're getting up to on the bank holiday weekend, but yes, I'm down here back at the fabricators, and we're going to be looking at the crawl through. So let's go into the cab and let's have a look what's happening in there. So in the cab area then you can actually see the cubby box. So hopefully with all my measurements what I've put on here on the glass, the security door should actually open, so we're about flush with the top of this cubby box, so it's something to actually crawl onto. The width as well should open, so that when the gear knob is actually pushed forward like such, the door will actually just come and miss the gear knob, hopefully. The tool tray here, that's going to have to come off, so I'm going to lose these storage pockets, but what I may do is cut them down, put them further back, or I don't know, we'll see what happens with this. With having the windows sort of like blanked off, then maybe there's going to be storage up here, so I don't know. I mean, we don't keep a lot of stuff in here, to be honest with you. And to be fair, at the moment, it's, I mean, I've got you know, like a couple of fuel filters, you know what I mean, which really shouldn't be in here. So I mean, what is there going to be? Maps, you know, fuel maps, tissue for cleaning the windscreens and the mirrors, maybe gloves, sunglasses. So there's not a lot to come in here, but at the moment I tend to dump stuff in here, so I need to sort that. One of the things what you can see is this drop down footrest, because the only access up onto the roof is through the sun hatch. So I'm going to lose that. Now I technically don't need this, but it just makes things a little bit easier. So whether that goes back onto the door, which I don't think it will, or whether I have some sort of a frame what drops down, I don't know yet. I've got an idea for a frame, what can go up here in tube. It will be hinged back here somewhere, and then when needed you can pull this frame down, it will swing down sort of like meet the door, and then it's got a couple of runs on here. Whether I get that made or not, you know, this weekend, I probably very much doubt it. So it's going to be in several. I may have to film this over, you know, 2 or 3 weeks. So phase 1 is to obviously take out the glass, replace the glass with the composite panel. Phase 2 then would be probably cutting out the hole. Again, I don't know how these finishes are going to finish. You know what I mean? I don't know if it's going to end up with a timber surround on there, or whether it's going to have something else on there. I really don't know. So, phase 3 will be then cutting through into the living quarters area, and then phase 4, which I need probably your help, guys, is the concertina stretchy type tunnel area. So I'll come to that in a second. like to say that I've hopefully covered all the problems what I'm going to come across, but no doubt there's going to be some hidden surprises in there. So yeah, so we'll crack on. We'll take the shelf off now. I'll release the cab again, and then get the cab actually cranked over, and then we'll start marking up and taking the glass out, hopefully from the other side. Right, time to start. Okay, I've taken out the tool tray, taken off the stirrup as well. Cubby box is gone, so I've got a nice big open area now to work with. So yeah, I'm about to make a drink now anyway, but I'll just show you these. The locking pins for the truck cab are down here. So you put a bar in that, and you pull it over, and that releases a pin. And you do that at both sides. So you do it with this. So that goes on there, you pull it in, it releases a pin at both sides, and then you go to the outside and then pump the cab, and then the cab lifts forward. So yeah, I'm just about ready to drop the cab forward. I'm in two minds whether to take this off or whether to leave this on, because I am going to be cutting with a cutting disc from the other side. So it's like, I'm hoping that this is going to be all right left on, and it doesn't catch fire. Yeah. I think the main thing about doing any job on this scale is obviously you got to really think about what you're doing in advance, and you know, even though I've measured it 2 or 3 times, the doors and the positioning of them, before I cut and before I do anything now, I'm going to rethink that decision what I've made, like, you know, a couple of weeks ago when I held the materials and the sizes and everything. So constantly checking yourself and questioning yourself all the time. Okay, so yeah, that's ready now. So we'll shut the door. We can turn this to up, and this goes in here, and then we can pump away, and there we go. All the stuff up on the roof is secure, and that will just lift the cab. That will just lift the cab forward. I'm hopefully going to be able now to climb on top of the engine there to cut out the back. That's what I'm hoping. But in the meantime, let's just check this out. Now that is a very clean engine. It's a Mercedes 6-litre V6, 220 brake horse. What a big monster that is. So the door I'm using for the cab has been provided by a North Yorkshire firm called Vehicle Window Centre. Something like this is going to cost you around about £240. It's quite a sturdy door, and I must say, having the rounded corners as well, gives the door and the door frame a little bit of extra strength. I have used in the past on the lockers of the truck square corners which are mitered, and I don't think they're as good. So for this time I went for the rounded corners. Makes it a little bit harder for when you're cutting it out, because obviously you've got to do a radius corner, but certainly the door is, I would say, just about worth its money. So I said I'm going to give them a good shout out, which hopefully I've done that. It's got double seals on this, so you've got a seal on the door itself, and then you've got a seal on the back edge here on the framework. So it's double sealed. Some of the other doors aren't double sealed. This is going to be opening up against the driver's seat, so when we do actually crawl through, it's going to be crawling through onto the passenger seat. So you've got a little bit more room on the passenger side because you haven't got the steering wheel. So that were me thinking behind that. So it can be locked from the driver's side. Now you're probably wondering why I've gone for the old latch on this side. Now in between the truck cab and the living quarters, it's approximately 200mm, so it's very hard to get in there anyway. Now admitted, you could reach over, maybe tamper with this and then open up the door, which makes the lock irrelevant. However, again, this is where I'm looking at you guys, if we've got any air ducting specialists out there. Around this, in between the truck cab and the living quarter, I'm wanting a little bit of a concertina shroud, a little bit what you get on the flexi buses, sort of like that. So if any of you guys out there air ducting specialists and you can actually get something like this made, give us a shout. You can have these doors sprayed in a multitude of colours. Standard, I think, is white, matte black and the bare aluminium colour. So I went for black on this just because, well, it matches in with everything else. Right, I've had to just slightly lift the cab slightly because my short legs I couldn't reach. So as you can see, I'm more a working platform height. I am actually stood sort of like on the engine. The inlet manifold. So quite a good platform to work from. But I've just basically running around here with a knife. As you can see, I've pulled off the rubber seal on this one. You can see the bright orange now, so you can see what colour the rescue vehicle was. So I've got the same to do on this one. Cut this one out, which is just a case of putting the knife in there and running it around, lifting out the glass, and then I can start marking up the area. Once I've marked up the area of the new door, I'm then going to cut the composite panel and get that glued into this area. I've marked out the measurements for cutting out. Obviously these are going to have curved corners on here as well, and the curved corners are also going to link into this composite panel. So what I'm going to do next is to cut the composite panels so they fit in here, but then we have to do the radius on the corners. I could do a cardboard template for this if I really wanted to, but it's just as easy for me, especially with having a guillotine here. I can quite quickly cut this on the guillotine and then do the corners on the guillotine as well. So I'm going to cut the panels oversized, fit them into the radius corners, and then I'm going to bring the door back up here then to double check my measurements, but also then I can mark the radius on these corners as well. I think one of the things, in the spirit of adventure, you're going to find yourself out of your comfort zone, And yeah, I'm doing this now, and I may be making it look easy. I know what I'm doing, and I may think I know what I'm doing, but I'm out of my comfort zone, right? So but that's adventure, isn't it? You know what I mean? So yeah, I think the thing is just to crack on, get a plan, stick to the plan as best you can. If you've got to modify the plan and drift off and improvise or improve, then you've got to do it. But yeah. Now for the composite panel, I'm using, I've got no idea what to call this. We use it in the shop fitting when they're making the signs, and it's a backing board for the signs. So basically overall, it's approximately, I'd say about 3.5 mil thick. It's 2 sheets of aluminium with a layer of plastic in between. So that's all I'm using for the composite panel. It's easy to work with, you can bend it, it's easy to cut, rivet and everything. So yeah. So I've rounded off these corners on the guillotine. You could file these, but they don't have to be perfect, you know what I mean. As long as they fit in the aperture, we'll be fine. I am going to stick this panel in and glue it in with Silica, the PU bonding. One bit of advice I will give you is never ever use silicone on any motor vehicles or camper vans. So always use this. I mean, you can get it off the internet in boxes, or just go down to the local Screwfix, and I think it varies from about £6, maybe £9 a tube or something like that. But yeah, you don't have to go to the motorhome shops where you'll get ripped off at £12 a tube. Just go down to Screwfix and it's there. So round off the corners, so I'm going to stick this in now, and I've got the other one to do, but then we'll mark up the door on here, and we'll get this one cut as well. Right, lovely. So these are fitted in nicely. So I think it's time to get the door up here, set that in place, and see how that finishes. Could really do with a labourer. So yeah, let's not forget the door as it was sat on there isn't quite right, because it's actually going to be fitted from the inside this way. So don't be thinking that the door is going to be opening this way and obviously fouling on the cab itself. So the door is actually opening inwards. So I've got the panels in place. I've marked up the top corners. I'm going to have to do these with a jigsaw, and then obviously we're now ready for getting the angle grinder and grinding this. We'll put a slitting disc in and we'll cut away. So right. I'm just about ready to start cutting out now. I suppose I should point out a few safety aspects. I've got my gloves, mask and glasses. I've got fire extinguisher on standby just in case the cab decides to go up in flames. Now, one thing you haven't seen me do, and I haven't done, is basically check for wires behind here. Now, I'm not going to cut right the way through, but regardless, I don't believe that there's any wires in here, because I know the only electrics is up at the top here, where the light and the speaker cables are. I know where them cables run, so I'm touching wood that there's no cables behind here. Like I say, I'm not going to actually cut right the way through with a blade. I'm just going to actually be cutting this steel. There's only a few points where obviously there'll be a strengthening piece up the centre here, where I'll probably have to go to the inside and cut that from the inside anyway. So, right, okay, one thing I should have mentioned is, obviously when you cut anything like this, obviously I've used a flat disc, but yet I've got a rounded cut, so you probably saw how I actually angling the blade. But one thing what I didn't mention were, obviously you've got to think about where your sparks are going. Obviously I've got 2 seats behind there, they're not covered up. I personally think they don't need covering up because I know what I'm doing, sort of. But the major thing is glass. If you're firing sparks onto glass, you will actually put little pot marks into your glass. I've seen it in the shop fitting industry where guys have come on site, ground something, especially the ducting guys, shot the sparks up against the shop front with the glass, and the glass needs replacing because it's still got these little solder marks in them. So I'm very careful then of obviously not firing any sparks towards the windscreen. This was another reason why, you know, keeping this this lining on the inside. Like I said, another reason why I wanted to keep it on. So I think that's all what I can do. All the outer skin now is actually cut. Obviously we've got this massive strengthening piece behind here, which I'm going to have a look at that from the inside. So what I'm going to do is drop the cab back down, get my Stanley knife and start cutting away the inner part of this, the lining, and then hopefully get to this strengthening strip of steel behind here. But yeah, so far good. Right, cab back down. So this is the inside. You can just see the strengthening part just there, which has got to come out. Being honest with you, this is the most scariest part of the work I've done probably in the last few years. But like I say, in the spirit of adventure, you often find yourself out of your comfort zone. So right, okay, I can see where my cuts are just here at either side. So I'm just going to draw 2 lines down, cut that away with a Stanley knife. Obviously I can measure the cut at the bottom, the depth, so I can cut that away and basically remove this material. The cut up here will be somewhere across here somewhere. Remove the finishers, and then I can get to the steel work. This bit isn't going quite to plan. The insulation is a bit like the old what is it? It's like the old mattress type material. Yeah, I'm just wondering now whether that could actually contain asbestos. So do they use it in the car industry? Maybe I'll get my dust mask back on and I'll continue cutting this, I think. Right, there you go. Dust mask back on. Yeah, it's horrible to cut. So what I may have to do, or what I'm thinking about doing, is making a template of the surround of the door, this sort of like shape, and then if I have to make a shroud to go around it, I can make a shroud. I don't know whether this is going to be as neat as what I thought it was going to be or not. I don't know, but just an idea. Well, oh, no turning back now. Oh. Well, so like at this point you think, can I change my mind? If Helen was here now, she'd be certainly giving me some looks, I know that. I think sometimes, you know, doing a camper of any scale, you know, you have got to bite the bullet at times, and certainly something on this scale, it's a commitment in time and money, a lot of money. So you know, doing something like the cut through is very challenging, shall we say, just to get things right. So I don't want to drone on too much about this but yeah, sometimes, you know, I think, well, it must be nice to go out there with, you know, £1 million in your pocket and go to one of these expensive firms and say, yeah, I want one of those. Yeah, it must be nice. But for the rest of us, my advice is, you know, you can certainly work through your ideas and think about things, get advice of the internet or people what's done this before, and just stick at it, you know what I mean? Don't rush anything, but just stick at it. But yeah, there will be times when you're doing a camper where you think, am I doing the right thing? Panic sets in, and I must admit, doing this now, it's just like, I sort of like question myself, is it going to work? Because I mean, you know, I mean, I've probably spent, you know, in the region of going up towards £400, and it's like, is it going to be right when it's done? It may be a disaster. Right guys, that's another day over. I'm going to leave it here because I think the video is getting a little bit too long now. I am, and I will try to keep it as short as possible, but there's so much work involved in doing this cut through. I'm sure you appreciate, you know, I can't just skip every process of it, or else you're going to be asking, well, how's he done that? So I'm leaving it here, and we'll catch you on the next one. I've got a little bit of a problem this morning where